Alright folks, this is Proof of Life for build 95. This particular build is just the motherboard and assembled. This is also a PAL build, and I've put PAL chips in it, the GTIA and the Antic, so that we can test it all out. And then we're going to pull all the Atari LSIs, package it up, and ship it off. But right now, I'm going to power it on. One of the things I've done on this is that since there's no switch, because there's no case, I've put just a jumper right here, and that way as soon as power hits it, it turns on. And it's the easiest way to do that if you don't have yours in a case. And so just use a switch on your power strip in order to get that accomplished. So we're going to turn it on here, and we're going to get the startup screen, the splash screen. We're going to have it do VBXE because VBXE is installed. And once again, as with all the builds, I'm using this wireless keyboard. The model number is here. And it is a PS2 wireless keyboard, and it also comes with a wireless mouse, so it's really nice. Just a couple of things. Let's go through the setup screen. So as you can tell, this is a 1088 XEL, and for the first screen, this is where you set the RAM and the OS and do a couple of different things. So to change screens, you use the right and left arrow keys. To change an option, press the enter keys. And you've got a number of options here. You've got stock 64K, a 320K Rambo, a 576K Compy Shop, or a 1 meg Rambo. I leave it on the 1 meg Rambo because it's the most memory for the most compatibility. But if you've got a piece of software that needs to run in a particular way, then this is the best way to do it. You can change these if you want by putting in custom operating systems. But the ones that come installed with my builds are the XLOS, the Atari OSB, that's the 400 and 800 OS, well, 800 OS, and it's a PAL version. This is a command line driven operating system, and this, of course, is XEGS if you want to run it on XEGS and have additional card slots. You can have Atari Basic C, which is the most corrected Atari Basic. It's missing all the bugs. Or if you like to do Altera Basic, or the Atari Assembler Editor cart, or Sin Assembler, if you want to do some machine language coding. I leave it on Basic. This is a nice new function. You can turn the Basic on or off. So if you don't want to have to hold the Option key, or it just never turns on, then the default is you can disable it, or whether or not you hold the Option key or shut it off with the SpartaDOS command line. SpartaDOS is enabled if you want to shut it off to run something else or to run a cartridge more directly. Remember, with this firmware, you can leave cartridges in and they will boot without turning SpartaDOS on or off. There is a graphical operating system that FJC has developed. I burn them in so that once it gets further along, you can see it and you can use it. I'll show it to you in a moment. Boot to loader is if you never want to go to the SpartaDOS command line and you just want to boot to the files on the compact flash, you can do that. If you want to shut off cartridge ROM, period, nothing stuck on the cartridge port will operate, or if you want to leave something in the cartridge port and never have to remove it, then this is the way to do that. So before we move to the next screen, I would like to show you the graphical OS, and you just enable it by doing that. You may have noticed that it automatically disables SpartaDOS. Now I'm going to press B for save changes in boot. We get the splash screen, and it goes into the graphical OS. Now, doesn't look really good in composite. It looks slightly better in S-Video, and let's see, if I change this to, yes, we're good there. It's not bad, but if you look at the VBXE output, and that's on a SC1224 with paint on the screen. That looks really nice. It looks even nicer with DVI installed, like a Sophia Revision C, but this customer does not have that installed. Okay, so to get out of this, press F12, get you back to the screen. If you enable SpartaDOS, it will automatically disable the loader. So let's go to the next screen. System clock, you could set the system clock here, but let's face it, it would take a long time because you would have to change it date by date, and then I'm going to have to go back and change that. But the easiest way to do that is let's boot. And at the command line, type date, and today is not the 14th, it's the 11th, so 11/04/19. Now, it's currently set in the most logical setting, which is the rest of the world except the United States, which is day, month, year. If you want to change that, there is a setting that you can put in your config sys for SpartaDOS, which will change that. Just while we're here, you may have noticed that all of the drives on my setup, because this is my configuration system file, I have it set so that there's a prompt that logs the current subdirectory and it logs the current drive in letters. You can easily set that, and you can still refer to it as D1, and it'll go to D1, or E, which is our drive. What I like about this is the way it's set up, and the reason I do it is, let's say that I'm in a subdirectory, CD MIDI. I know I'm in that subdirectory. Whereas if that's not set up, then I have to guess of what I changed to. If I walked away and I forget that, then this just sets it up very nicely. All right. Oh, and to set the time, we can also do that from the prompt. Okay. TD on, SpartaDOS function that's been around forever, gives you the time date. TD off. Okay, let's go back to that configuration screen. This is the base address for the VBXE. Some software or some hardware conflicts with that, so you might want to change it or shut it off entirely. That's up to you. I leave it at 640 because that's the standard default. Stereo Pokey, you can turn it on and off. You can get a separate IRQ address for the second Pokey if you want. Your VGate, which controls overscan on LCD and similar monitors, is enabled. Again, just press Enter to enable or disable it. PBI BIOS. PBI BIOS has to be enabled in order to have access to the compact flash hard drive. The PBI notice is the little notice that pops up during boot that tells you what version it is. You can turn that on and off. Obviously, you need hard disk enabled in order to do the compact flash. I set it for D5 as the default simply because my thought is most floppies are D1 through D4. You have to be hardcore to have floppies at D5. D1 redirect, easily done, just so that you can boot stuff off of any drive as opposed to just the drive designated as D1. This will always look for the SDX config sys at D5. You can make your hard drives write protect. And if you have a dual compact flash, then you need to set this to enable. This customer does not. Okay. High-speed I/O, I've set it to disks plus PC link. You can enable or disable depending on the particular drive. Some drives like it, sometimes don't. With this version of the firmware, you can have the system give you SIO noise for just the SIO. The SIO and when it accesses an ATR file, when it accesses the hard drive, or when it does nothing. I like it, so I have it preset to all three. You can change it to whatever you like. This is the information. You can tell that there is a compact flash hard drive installed. There is 6502C, obviously, it is a PAL, and that the core of the VBXE is set as 126A, and stereo is present. BIOS menu, you can access it through help. Cold boot is disabled. You can change that if you'd like. The BIOS logo that we saw when we booted, it's every time it boots or just when it powers on. ROM flashing is enabled because remember, you can flash the ROM on the Ultimate 1 meg. I set it for color 7 because I can recognize at a glance whether I've set this correctly via the pot. You can change it to whatever you'd like. Sound and screen saver. This is for Rapidus. And then each one of these keys you can hit on any configuration screen. You don't have to come to this screen. So I'm going to save changes and boot. And I'm going to go right into F12. I'm going to go into the loader. Okay, so with the loader, you can access any 32-bit FAT32 partition or any FAT16 partition that you've made on your compact flash. For this compact flash, I've got 4 partitions: FAT32, the Atari partition that's accessed for, under Atari DOS or Sparta DOS or whatever DOS you're running, and then 2 FAT drives. And we'll talk about why I've set FAT16 drives as opposed to just making one big FAT32. Let's go with FAT32. Off of this loader, you can load ATRs or XEX files. I'm going to load a map file. So there's a lot of programs out there, or not a lot, there's some programs out there. They're multi-disc programs. And if you've got these ATR files on your compact flash or wherever, you can't swap the disk out like you would if you just had floppies. So you set up a map file that tells the loader where to find the next file. And that's why the disk swap switch is so important on the compact flash adapter. So let's load this up. I'm just going to press enter. You can hear it accessing. And I'm going to press start. It's accessing and loading. Okay, now it says insert side 2. So what I do here is that's where these come into play. So I'm going to press this button. And then I'm going to press this button. Aha! Oh, the prongs came out. So I'm going to press this button, and when I do, that lights, right? So now I'm going to hit enter. It's going to load side 2, and the LED goes out. And then this is just a fun little demo that does some animation. And then again F12 and then L gets me in the loader, and you can see it's got them loaded on drive 1 and drive 2. Very cool, right? So while we're here, let's load this XEX file. And I have these cables. The customer didn't order them, but got to test them, so I've got these cables installed. And then I've just got, like the usual videos, I've got my joystick set there. And go up, down, do the diagonals, fire, okay? And then I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to put in joystick 2. Okay, we're all good. So, F12 again, let's go to loader. And this is a real intensive PAL only. So I'm going to load it. A. And it sits for a little bit. And you might notice it's got the access light there. You can see the blue light. So we know it's doing something. You can hear it. Alright, so it's a nice video, and over here. Okay, now the next thing I want to show you, let's go to F12 here, and we're going to B for boot. Yes, VBXE. So somebody asked me the other day, it's like, you know, what's good for why is VBXE good? You know, do they have any games for them? And they've got some games, but what I really like the VBXE for is its 80 column mode. So I'm going to load Spartados Commander, which comes on the Spartados toolkit. Now, standard video goes blank, but you've got 80 columns on your VBXE, and this is really nice. It's a menu-driven or pseudo-graphical ability to do DOS commands. You can copy, you can run, you can print. Just really nice way to maneuver through your hard drive or your floppies. Okay, to get out of it, I'm just going to Control Quit. Yes. Gets me back to the command line. Alright, so we've tested the joystick, we've tested VBXE, obviously the compact flash works. So next thing I want to try is I want to try your Legacy SIO. So for Legacy SIO, I've just got this SIO to SD installed, and it's just got the firmware ATR loaded. So I'm going to go to the A drive, D1, to a directory. Base, that's because the loader has base 33 loaded up. So let's do a cold boot. Because remember, when the loader puts files in, it puts them in a floppy drive. So if you've got legacy floppies or something else set as D1 or D2 or D3 or D4, then that's where it's going to go. So you can either unload it from the loader, or if you're lazy and you don't want to go through things while you're making a video, then you can just do a cold boot. So let's go to A. Let's do directory. Okay, and that's the firmware there. You can also see, and let's do it again so you can see it, the access light on the SIO to SD. You can see the access light on the compact flash as well, because remember, every time it goes, it reads access from the compact flash because of the path I have set up. So it's going to search everything before it goes. Fair enough? Okay. The next thing to check would be the SIO to PC, which is this little Bob 12391 that is in, or 12731. So what I've done is I've got it connected to this little Mac Mini right there. And some of you might be saying, well, why a Mac Mini? Well, it's small, and I'm a Mac person after I'm an Atari person. And also I can run Parallels. So this is Respect, and it's just set up, it's running under Parallels emulation on my Mac. But it's set up so that it can see and run the SIO to PC. Okay? So I've got drive 3 and drive 4 set, and again, they're just firmware. I could easily, let's put something different in there, just for S's and G's. So I'm going to load up. Now you can load up an entire directory, or you can load up another ATR. Let's load up, oh, I don't know, TK2 ATR. Okay, just for something different. So I'm going to go to I'm going to go to drive C or D3, do a directory. Okay, and then I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to point it up at the screen here. And you can see it accessing the SIO and how it's reading the sectors. Okay. Keep in mind, not only do we have video here, but we also have video out here, simultaneous. Okay. The last thing to try, of course, is going to be the cartridge access. So what I've got here is I've just got a little beef drop cartridge. And there's not a tunnel on this or a guide, so I'm going to pop it out so that it's easy to pop on. The front says it right here on the board, cart front, you see that? Now, I'm certainly not going to put it in hot, so I'm going to turn it off. Put it on like that, and then turn it on again. It's going to show the boot logo, and then go into the cartridge, which is very cool. Okay, and then it works. As people that have watched other videos, I used to do this as a demo of the joystick. And, so, oh, I wasted all my pepper. So, works nicely. Okay, gotta turn this off. And again, the cartridge was also coming out on the RGB screen. I'm going to take this out. Okay, and then that was everything. Let's go over the ports here. So you have your PS2 mouse and PS2 keyboard. You've got your composite video. You have S video. This is the RGB, which is a standard ST monitor connector. This is your sound out, so 3.5 millimeter stereo out. SIO to PC, power supply. If you want to put it in a case, you can use any of these jumpers here to do that. There's also jumpers throughout the board to attach for different displays, for like status indicators and things like that. This is a note to the customer. This here is just set in some dins right there. It has a nasty habit of popping out during shipping, so I'm going to take it out. Before you boot up, just put this in just like this, and just put it in like that. Make sure it's in all the way, and then boot up. Okay? I don't want to flop. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a piece of electrical tape over here and just carefully take the electrical tape off. Okay? This is set up just so it doesn't short out. And you can put this in a case, but it's there for your use. Other than that, I'm going to carefully wrap this up and put this in some anti-static bags right after I pull all the chips. And then I will get this off to you. Okay? Enjoy. And that has been Proof of Life for build number 95.